HannaTalk.
What is up, Bleach fans? Simon here. Welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone is doing absolutely fantastic. Happy 1st of February, everyone, or depending where you are in the world, after a bit of a hiatus in 2025, and to kick off 10 years since I officially started this channel, this is my first interview for 2026 with a voice actor who's been best known to fans as Byakuya Kuchiki in Bleach, and having made his return to the series in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, which has now just started season 3, but he's also been best known for his work in Robotech as Roy Fokker, Fist of the North Star as Jaggy, Macross Plus, Fate Zero, as well as in works such as Trigun, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Persona, and has also narrated across various audiobooks, which has earned him numerous awards from Audiophile magazine and so much more. Please welcome to the channel the amazing Dan Woren.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I can live up to all of that, but thank you. Hello, anyone that's watching, including Simon. Hi.
Hello, hello,
And
Dan.
thank
How are
you so much for
you?
that glorious description. I appreciate it. I'm well. I'm very well. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right, thank you. But
Excellent.
obviously, before we get into obviously the first question I ask every voice actor, I'd like to start off by saying that it's been about a year since the fires in LA have happened, which I'm really sorry about to anybody in LA, of course, which was absolutely devastating when all that happened. How are you doing? But also, how's your family and friends doing, and the wider community of LA doing?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you to answer that directly. And I don't have any family or friend. Well, I have friends, but I don't have any family that was impacted by the fires. But I do have friends that lost their home, and a lot of different things have happened. So it's still now a matter of trying to rebuild and decide for a lot of people what they're going to do next. It's it really devastated a large area and a large amount of people, and so it's a very tough thing. But LA is pretty resilient. I would say very realistically. And there's just been a lot of stuff problematic in that with the rain that would come right after all the foliage had been, deforested, so to speak, on the land, so that then you have a mudslide, you have to worry about flood. So there's just a lot of back and forth Mother Nature activities. And I stress this point to anyone that hasn't already figured it out. If you're fighting Mother Nature, you're going to lose because the power there is so absolutely astounding. It's just like, what just happened here? So, it's be prepared as much as you can for eventualities. It's just so critical. It truly is. So that's just my point. But the city is evolving and moving towards getting better. And there's a lot of things that have already happened positively in that regard. So thank you for asking. And most everybody I know is doing okay. I mean, there's certainly a lot of emotion and loss, but most people that I know are doing all right and just trying to move forward and get their lives back in some sort of normalcy.
No, that's absolutely fantastic to hear that like everyone is heading towards that level of normalcy and starting on the rebuilding side of things. And hearing the thing you were talking about with Mother Nature and all that kind of stuff, because especially up here in Victoria, just like literally at the start of the year with the heat wave we've been facing in Australia, we've been hit with bushfires and floods lately in Victoria and stuff. But also
Yeah,
last year in particular, we were hit
I
with one of the
remember.
most devastating events in Australian history with the Bondi attacks
Hmm.
that happened last year, of course. And of course, like back in 2009, we had the Black Saturday events with the bushfires of Victoria and the floods in Queensland and
Yep.
stuff. But
Yep.
as history has shown us that when we've been hit by very devastating events, we've always managed to come back and come
Hmm.
back stronger and better than ever. So that's the way I look at it personally and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
No, I completely again. I remember looking at some of the fire footage from you guys and going, "Oh my God, this is so intense. It's crazy." And I just have a weird for the last 2 years running now. It's been a weird thing that stuff has happened on my birthday, and that's crazy because you get up expecting to have a wonderful day and then you turn on the TV and that was the fires erupted on my birthday, January 8th. Last year, and I'm just watching this horrendous thing on TV all day, going, "Well, happy birthday! This is messed up." And then on a worse, if it could be worse, but it's equally disastrous, was the shooting of Miss Good, and that happened the day before my birthday and was totally being discussed and going over that night. And I'm like, geez, what? Maybe I'll change the birth date. But I'm hoping to change that kind of an observation next year. And I'm proud of the day I have as a birthday because I share it with Stephen Hawking's, which is not a terrible thing. But musically speaking, we got your David Bowie and we got your Elvis Presley. I'm pleased. It's a good bit of company to be in, other than the Kim Jong Il, which is also part of the group, which I do not understand. How did that happen? But anyway, enough about the birthday.
But no, that's absolutely fantastic though. And it's like they say that like the best thing you can do when a lot of stuff like that happen is is you'll come back better and stronger than ever. It's just like
Yeah,
live each day just one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, because you never know what's going to happen around the corner and stuff.
and it's so easy. On that same note, it's very easy for people to get caught in the what ifs and caught in the past and not being able to see forward because they're so held back by the trauma and the possible failure or what might go wrong if. And what you're saying is exactly right. You have to recognize that you have no control over the past, but you can let it control you. And you have no real control over the future except the actions you take now towards that. And so you have to be in the moment. Otherwise, you can't live ahead or behind. You have to be on it. And that's exactly what you're saying. And I completely agree.
Absolutely. And especially because like, and I haven't gotten into a video about this, but I did post about this for why I was kind of absent most of 2025 a little bit was because of what I was facing, not just because of what was happening in Australia and the world around us, but also because I was struck with really hard events in my life with both
Mm-hmm.
my mum and my uncle on my dad brother on my dad's side getting struck with cancer about a couple of weeks apart from each other,
I'm sorry.
like all that stuff happening in a really short period of time, and then my family and I dealing with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, having lost my uncle months later at the age of
Mm.
78, or he would have
Very
been 78 last year and stuff, and my mother dealing with the treatment, my father dealing with the loss of his brother and one of our family members and stuff. And also dealing with my mum having gone through surgery and the treatment,
Yep.
and then hearing about the shooting that happened in Bondi. Last year was like, without a doubt,
Yeah.
one of the worst years of my life, and
Sure.
probably the worst year for a lot of other people, for that matter and stuff. But the way I looked at like now, especially starting in 2026, and especially looking into 2026 from last year, was that I looked at it as like a brand new and fresh start, just as a way as
Mhm.
like a new beginning from that. It's like when you come out of that, you're going to come out of it stronger and better than ever.
Absolutely.
And just like look, take each day, just one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, and just look at it as a way to have a brand new and fresh start. That's
Yeah.
the
It's
way I look at it personally.
No, and I think that's an awesome way to do that because you have options. You are the one that chooses how to move forward or not with whatever happens in our lives. We are the ones that make the choice, and so to make that choice to learn from and grow as opposed to just suffer and reminisce in pain. And I'm not saying that's bad or wrong, but it doesn't give you any kind of solace. It doesn't give you any kind of opportunity to move forward. So, to the best of your ability, just try to move forward and do any little thing you can, and acknowledge the fact that that's something. It's not everything, but I'm moving forward and not just sitting here stagnant or waiting for something to force me or whatever. So it is not easy, and I recognize that. It's not like, why don't you do that? No, there's a lot going on. Emotions are incredibly strong. So
Absolutely, definitely without a doubt. But here's to 2026, and
yes.
here's to all of that. Now,
Mm.
now, obviously, now let's get into the first question I ask every actor or every guest I've ever had on this channel. How did acting start for you?
Hmm. Well, I was never a good liar, strangely enough, when I was a little kid. And acting could be called lying at times, but lying for a good reason, maybe, or for a paycheck, or who knows what. But whenever in elementary school, whenever a teacher would ask who wants to read out loud, my arm would immediately shoot up because I enjoyed doing it. And reading has been a large part of my life since I was a child. And I devoured a lot of horror authors and books and Edgar Rice Burroughs and uh, Edgar Allan Poe, a lot of Edgars, and just any number of really good writers in that realm. And so I was always reading stuff, and the James Bond novels I was totally into, when I was a kid, and just probably shouldn't have been reading them maybe at the time, but based on my age. But nonetheless, I felt bold enough to do that, and so I just loved just immersing myself in those stories and those thoughts and just seeing what was going on. So reading to me was like great, a chance to read some more and read out loud, and it went pretty well. So that's kind of my introduction to that kind of a stuff. I didn't do any acting in junior high school, or what we call middle school now. It didn't until my junior year in high school. And then I got cast in a really quality play. I believe the title was A Feudin' Over Yonder. And of course, I played, I mean, you should know, the legendary Pappy Popoff. Thank you. Pappy Popoff. And that was my introduction to, and it was a funny role, and I'm very comfortable with comedy, and I love to do, that kind of stuff. But that was the first thing that I did. And then the next year I was cast as the lead in the senior play or something. And that gave me an indication that I was pretty good, but also that I liked it. And it was really quite a rush to do. So it just kind of went from there. And initially I was a psychology major until I hit statistics. And statistics, I should put that a different way, until statistics hit me, because my brain could not, didn't want to, would refuse to understand what statistics were about or how to work with them. And so I was like, okay, psychology's out. Okay. Still don't know, but I ended up transferring for junior college to UC Santa Barbara. And from there, I was a psych minor and got a degree in theater. And again, I was a lead in a couple of plays, and so it was indicative that maybe there was a chance to go on beyond college and maybe make a couple bucks doing this as well, because I loved it so much. So I mean, that's kind of the transition there. And there's voiceover work after that just came kind of unexpectedly and beautifully. And so that's what kind of slowly launched me into anime and any of the dubbing and looping stuff. Because I'd already had to do it on there was a local store. Well, it was in California. It might have been a couple of the other states close by, called Miller's Outpost. And that was like, there's a store. You have the Gap there,
Mhm.
the store called the Gap, or do you know of it?
I do know the store Gap and stuff. I don't think we've
Right.
got it in Australia though,
Yeah,
but
no problem. I was just seeing if you knew about it, but the Miller's Output was the precursor to the kind of that whole setup with the Gap and having, jeans and cool, comfortable clothes and just kind of be as hip as you can for the moment. And so I was a spokesman for Robinson. Excuse me, that's another one. I was a spokesman for the Gap, and initially I was hired to dub the voices of a couple models, the male models they had in the ads that really shouldn't be talking on camera because it was not good. And so they hired me to replace their voices, and I did that, and that worked. And then I eventually became their on-camera spokesman for a couple of years, doing a lot of fun little comedy stuff with that. So that was an introduction to that kind of stuff. And then there's been a lot of different companies that I've been the spokesman for. Pacific Life, it's an insurance company, a chain of stores called Robinson's May, which is like Macy's basically. And there's been a number of things like that. So I've just had a wide variety of things that I've done, voice wise. You mentioned the audio books. I've recorded, as far as I know, right around 250 of them right now. And I have three that I'm about, three different projects that I'm just trying to put in order right now, but I may start working on one of those next week. And there's just a lot of great stuff going on. And I say this so often, every time I'm at a con, I must say it at least 10 times to different people. It's just like, I'm a very lucky man, because I get to be a little kid. I get to have fun. I get to wake up every morning that I'm working with the attitude of, I get to go to work. This is so cool. I love this. As opposed to so many people that wake up and go, oh God, I've got to go to work. Oh. And so just alone that, and to be paid for something that you love to do, that's a stereotypical commentary is find something you love to do and get paid for it, and you'll never work a day in your life. That's the kind of, so that's kind of my joy, and not kind of, it is my joy to be able to do that. And now there's much more on top of that, which we'll talk about a little bit. Like, very quickly, I was diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago. So this is a whole new thing for me, even though I've had it all my life. So that's that's opened just so many doors for me to be able to maybe give back to fans and people that are dealing with that, you know, to try to normalize it, basically. As I said, we can talk about that more. So just go ahead with where you're at, and then I'll jump in whenever.
No, absolutely. No, this is fantastic. This is absolutely amazing. Now I remember back to this interview from Neil Patrick Harris on the off-camera show where he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the advice that he got when he first started on Doogie Howser I think it was from the showrunner at the time, who told him
Right.
that in this industry, he used the analogy of like a surfer in trying to catch big waves and stuff. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna try and like catch it and stuff, but don't forget about like the little waves in the process to catching the big waves and stuff.
Yeah.
When you think back to like when you first started your career, what was the best advice that you ever got when like at any point in your career, but also when you first started your career as an actor?
Well, it was both my father and about 27,000 other people were just going, if you can have a backup job, make sure you don't just go out and, you know, as much as good as yours, what you don't know what's going to happen. So try to at least have something as a backup or know that you can do that. And I, unfortunately, I've, you know, worked as an actor and didn't have any other job for, well, it was about 15 years. And then suddenly in the 1990s or so, it just got slow and nothing was happening. And I was like, oh God, I got to get a job because I'm not making any money and I don't know why. And the only thing I knew was the restaurant business because I have a history of working in it prior to that. And my mother was a banquet manager at some big hotels in San Diego and different areas in California. So I was good at it and I knew what I was doing. And so I went back to that for a couple of years off and on, still working in the industry, but not making enough money to just do that only. But that was humbling, obviously, but it was also a great opportunity. I worked at a place where I got to meet a number of cool music related celebrities. I used to wait on David Crosby and Graham Nash and their wives regularly, and there was just a lot of music people that came into this one place, so that was great. But anyway, after that, things started coming again, and I haven't, yeah, I haven't had to take a real job, quote unquote, for at least 20 years now, and so that's my great fortune, and it continues. And so I'm just so grateful that, you know, here it is at this point in my life, and I'm busier than hell, and I enjoy it, and I feel like maybe a little bit wiser. I don't want to go too crazy, but as a human being, as far as, you know, what I can do and what we can all do to try to improve everyone's lives, improve the planet, recognize the interconnectivity between us and the planet and each other, and recognize that it's not us and them or your side, my side, or whatever, but we're all in this together. If the world fails, everybody fails, and so, you know, that's something that's heavy on my mind, but in a good way, because it really makes me look at things and try to be much more optimistic, and also to be much more observant about how people behave, and then what might improve that. And dialogue, like we're having now, is one of the most critical and important things imaginable. So,
Absolutely. No, without a doubt on that. That's absolutely fantastic and all that kind of stuff. And that actually reminds me a little bit of, again, from that same interview with Neil Patrick Harris, where he was talking about that he was after like longevity rather than trying to achieve fame, using the
yeah,
analogy
me
of like a
too.
shooting star, for example. And he said, I'd much rather be the guy in charge of the telescope, just waiting for that next chapter. When it comes to the term success, because that's often debatable amongst a whole range of other people in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what they define success, looking back across your entire career, what has been like your definition of success in the context of being an actor and stuff?
Well, for me initially, and I can safely call myself an underachiever, realistically, and that's fine. I'm not like, yeah, you know, but I'm working on that and have been. So for me, it was always, for me to feel successful as an actor. It was a simple equation. It was just like to be recognized by my peers as a talented person that, you know, that works and should, and to be a working actor, to have both. I don't need to get an Oscar. I Great, you know, by all means, please, if I do something that's warranting somebody suggesting that, boy, am I happy. But meanwhile, it's just to have the respect of my peers who I respect, and to be working and to be a working actor. So I've accomplished that, and now I have to try to take that particular forum that I have to try to do more things for others, I think is kind of where it's at now for me. And I'm just so grateful that I have this opportunity in the forum of all the cons that I go to talk with people and to have that dialogue and to try to encourage them and very importantly to thank the fan base for all their support of me and all of us that do this, because without that, I'm not talking to you on this call. I'm not in back behind a table saying, what is there something that you'd like me to sign for? It's like that doesn't happen. So I really have to make sure that people understand how important they are to me as much as I may be to them.
Absolutely. No, that is definitely true. And especially because looking back at like all the stuff I've done on the channel for the last 10, 11 years right now, and especially when I look back at like across the Comic Cons that I've attended over the years, and I still continue to attend to this day forward. And when people ask me, why do you still continue to do the interviews after all this time, especially when
Mm-hmm.
you've gone into doing reviews, opinions, all that kind of stuff on your channel in the last year or so, is like I still continue to do this to express the side of myself that's outside of being a musician and music teacher, to be part of the pop culture community, but particularly to show my support, particularly to the animation and the voice acting industries. I go
Right.
to I still go to comic conventions to meet all the guests, but it's also primarily to meet the voice actors and stuff. You guys are the real rock stars in what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, and the music thing too. We can talk some more about that because I want to know what you're doing and whatever else. So whenever, whether it's off the call or whatever, I don't want to
Yeah.
steer the direction.
It's all about you in this case. So
Yeah.
that's I want it to be all about you, of course.
Okay.
Now, but now going across now, speaking about, of course, with comic conventions, when you think back to a lot of the interactions that you've had with fans or like any moments from Comic-Con or anything like that, have there been any stories that really stood out to you in terms of fans that have approached you from roles that you were like, oh wow, I didn't expect that role, or like have like where fans have been surprised that you played in like certain roles and stuff. Have there been any stories that really stood out to you?
Well, just in a generalization of the second option there, every single time, because I have a large, like an 8-foot banner with a lot of the characters that I portrayed on the banner, and there'll be people just standing looking at it, and somebody will turn to their friend and hit him in the arm and go, look, he did that. Are you serious? I mean, I can hear that from the table, just and so that happens quite a lot. Or somebody looks at the pictures on the table and goes, that was you? Yeah. Whoa. So that's a lot of fun, because for me the greatest compliment is that I do a character that I listen to and I'm not even sure it's me, that I've gotten it so away from, because my voice is fairly recognizable if you've watched some of the stuff I do. So to be able to get rid of that familiarity, and it's just a voice, it's like, this is cool. So I'm always trying to do that, not intentionally going, don't sound like this, but it's still just to create a character that stands on its own and it doesn't go, oh, that's obviously so and so. And remind me the first part of the first question again, because there was something I wanted to say
Uh,
again.
oh yeah. So when it came to like when you like were there any
Story.
particular so with like when fans discovered like that you or when fans came up to you and recognized you from like certain roles and stuff
Yeah,
that you never would have expected outside of the ones that you were so recognized for, whether it's
it's
Byakuya or Macross or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for example.
yeah. Well, JoJo's is very popular now, so that they're surprised that I did it, but a lot of people know it, and that's the von Stroheim character. But yeah, there's people that come up that talking about a show that almost nobody has ever brought anything to sign specifically to that, and they go, oh man, I love this character, I love what you did, and like I think there's a small character in Hunter v Hunter that I've worked on, and there's like 3 or 4 other shows like that are just kind of outlying planets, if you will, and so people come in and go, no man, there's like a trio of 3 guys that were one of the military things that I've worked on before, and nobody had ever said anything. And they have all this, please sign this. This is great. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea. So and I will still be amazed when people come up and say something about Fist of the North Star, because that was 1984, I think, or so. And so for them to know the character and to last this long to say something about it is amazing. and that's just such an off the wall character, and it was a lot of fun. That's the whole thing, and I forget some of the things I've worked on because it's been quite a few things, and some of them stick immediately, and someone like, you did this right. I'm like, I think so. I don't want to lie. And then, that kind of thing. But as far as having interactions with the fans, that I'm having so many really great moments that just honestly fill my heart with joy, if you will. Like, for an example, it's just the opportunity I have to try to, with this little bit of celebrity that gives me some kind of clout in the eyes of a few people, as far as, wow, you did that, to be able to utilize that to then be useful and helpful in interpersonal stuff with people that come to the table. And there was a girl that was about, I don't know, 10 or 11, and she was there with her brother, and she was a big fan of Igor, which I do on Persona, the Persona 1, 2, 3, and 4, the video games. And so I said, oh, well, and the one phrase, as people that watch the show know, the one phrase that's standard is him opening the shows with, "Welcome to the Velvet Room. My name is Igor." And so I just said, did you want to try and say it? You want to say welcome to the Velvet? And she was just so shy. She just kind of put her head down, and I was like, well, no, it's okay. And then I'm trying to get her to do it. So I take a picture of Igor and put it in front of my face. I said, okay, I'm going to do it behind the picture. I'm going to say it, and then maybe you can try it behind the picture if that makes it if that's easier. And she's like, and so I did it, and then I said, "Do you want to try it?" And do you want the picture? She goes, "No." And then she just put her head down, and she came up, and she went, "Oh." And she did that. You can't see me, I forget, but I'm just, she looked up like ready to go, and then stopped and put her head down. She still opened her mouth and did. She did like 3 times in a row like that. And we're just very encouraging, myself and her brother, going, no, you can do it. It's okay. Nobody's going to make fun of you. It's going to be great. Don't worry. And then she did it on the 4th try. And the
Wow.
joy on her face, you can't touch that. That was just a transcendent moment for her and her brother and for me. So that kind of stuff, you can't touch it. It's just like, oh my God, I'm a part of that. I can contribute to that. So that to me is priceless. I mean, it really is. So,
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely fantastic on that bit. It actually reminds me a lot of when, especially like in Australia, because now in the last few years, that anime has become a much global phenomenon. And I said, obviously, it's been really popular for a long time, but it's begun to get so much more notice from,
mm-hmm.
especially thanks to the Demon Slayer movie that came out last year, which obviously starred Channing Tatum as one of the
Right.
guests in that. And in the same way, we've been getting a lot of live action adaptations of anime in the last few years. They've now started to slowly hit that success level. When you think across, like, when now because of the video game adaptations and anime adaptations in the last few years, are there
Mm-hmm.
any particular anime or video game properties that you've worked on that could see working as a live action film or TV show?
Think about that for a second, because I know there has been stuff. Um, hey, give me a moment to contemplate. I'm going to try to turn this light out because it's blinding me now. It's so good. Will it turn out? Yay! Look at that. I can even turn it off. What a hero. I'm so proud. So let me just kind of cogitate on that for a second. To be honest, I started to look at the Bleach live action, and I'm sorry, I was not a big fan. Um, I tried. I watched for a while and went, nah. But I mean, I love Fallout, but anyway, as far as what can be done. Well, they also Lupin the Third. They've done a Lupin series in English, as far as a live action, and that's pretty good that I can tell. I'm like literally going through like a Rolodex in my brain of what might work in that regard. Um, let's see. Well, and for that matter as well, Persona now they're touring, doing Persona stuff, live action. So I imagine that's open to that because there's that possibility. And it's difficult with the live action because some of these characters are so odd. It's like, how do you make it kind of humanistic but not go all cartoony on it, or do you want to be an all cartoony kind of an attitude? It's a tough one. It's hard for me to come up with a direct answer because nothing completely jumps to my brain right now. And just on that same note, it's funny. There was a book called Stinger, which is a horror sci-fi book, which is a phenomenal book. And I'm just trying to McCammon, McCammon. I think it's Robert McCammon who writes a number of those kind of things, and I just love that book because it was so visual. I could just see so everything they're talking about and every the creatures and the things that were happening with this whole concept. And then they made it into a series, and I was what? And I'm so excited, and it was good. It was a little slow in getting started, and then they canceled it after one season. I'm still depressed because I mean, if you get a chance, if you like reading sci-fi horror type stuff, he's such a great writer. I think it's Robert McCammon, and the book is Stinger, and I highly recommend it. But that was an example. I was like, God, I would like to see this. There's been two books like that I knew would be wonderful, and they screwed it up both times. This time they canceled it. It wasn't screwed up in the manufacture, but the other time they didn't do it justice. So that's a good way to dodge that question. How am I doing?
No, absolutely fantastic. I think for me personally, I can definitely see like a Persona, like a TV show or film happening because just like with the Fallout series, it was known for
Mm-hmm.
that. Fallout was known obviously for that very ridiculous kind of
Yeah.
aspect. Well, like in terms of like the way they use the music and having like those action moments and the comedic moments
Mm-hmm.
during that, I feel like it could translate really well into a live action film or TV show. And there has been the reports going about of Warner Brothers doing a live action Bleach movie, like after the obviously where like away from the 2018 Bleach film, and also potentially
Right.
doing the live action Naruto movie with the director Daniel Destin Cretton, who did the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and is doing one
Mm-hmm.
of the new Spider-Man movies. So there are a lot of anime stuff that we're starting to get right now, but if they can manage to do like One Piece in live action, which is like
Yeah.
absolutely crazy, then I think
Absolutely.
anything is totally possible.
I think you're right, and just I did neglect one obvious choice in this. The Robotech has been trying to do a live action for at least a decade or longer, and they were close, I think, because I met somebody that was doing set design on the project, and that was 2 years ago. But it hasn't happened. But that absolutely lends itself to so much, especially with the fighter pilot concept with Roy Fokker, and what we've got with Tom Cruise, all of his flight movies, if you will. Then it would naturally, if people would just for nothing else, maybe to compare and contrast. But yeah, I mean, I hope that happens at some point, and obviously myself and any of the other people that were recording Robotech back in the mid '80s, all of us are still good actors, and all of us would love to appear on camera. And I would imagine for the fan base, it wouldn't be in the same character, obviously, but to be in the movie, they would draw people significantly just to see their childhood heroes portrayed on camera, just not vocally or vocally on camera.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true in that fact. And look, they're still going to be developing the live action Voltron movie with Henry Cavill at the helm and everything. And
Yeah,
that is like that I think is going to be like the tester for
yeah,
like if they ever do like a Gundam movie, if they ever do a Macross
yeah.
movie, all that sort of stuff. And my question out there to the listeners, let me know in the comments below, do you want to see a live action Macross movie or any of the other projects like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Persona project, and leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Dan Woren and any of the cast members make a Stanley cameo in the live action projects. That would be amazing.
I can't argue with that. Go for it, please.
Absolutely. Just got to contact whoever's in charge to make it happen, because that would be amazing.
Absolutely, I agree.
And now looking across at like all the various parts in of your career. Now, as we know, we've been getting a lot of revivals and reboots from various projects over the last few years. Looking
Mhm.
across at all the projects in your career, what would you see as like needing for like a reboot, or that you personally would love to see a revival of with the level of animation that we've got for anime today?
Oh, you know what would be really cool? It's a video game, but Fire Emblem. Um, there's a lot of great stuff in there that would be just so entertaining because you've got youth, you've got older characters, you've got rugged warriors, you've got so much going on with that. And for that matter, I would probably not be in it, but any of the there's I only did 1,000 of them, and I'm trying to think of what the most common name of it is, but it's a Chinese Lord. Sometimes, like I said, there's just so many things that I've done that my brain just kind of goes, oh, I don't know about that. But it's Destiny Warriors. Dynasty Warriors.
Dynasty Warriors,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And there's, I mean, again, because look at what happened with the most recent Shogun. It was phenomenal to watch. If you haven't seen it, did you get to look at it?
I have seen season one. I absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. I can't wait for
And it's
season
coming. I
two.
know. I'm me too. I'm like, oh, please bring that. And then the other one I would totally recommend to anybody that likes quality martial arts and a great storyline and strong women characters as well as men. It's the series Warrior. There's 5 seasons. It's one of the best budgeted films as far as the production. The leads are perfectly cast. It's like, my God, it's good. So anybody that enjoys that kind of stuff, and it was Bruce Lee's concept. He is the one that came up with it, but it was too soon for him to be recognized as somebody that would do that because Asian can't be the lead, that kind of an attitude back then. So yeah, that's definitely one. But the Dynasty Warriors are so much, and there's just so many great characters. I think that would be an excellent thing to work with. Uh, I keep seeing things like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, yeah. Forgive me for my cheat sheet here, but it has value, and
Absolutely.
there's just some fun characters that I think it would do well. And as far as like a fun character for me is this Gurren Lagann or Gurren Lagann. I'm afraid the correct way to pronounce it, honestly. But that was a good crew working together. The characters intermingled well and argued well and that kind of stuff. Having that live is very much fun to see with well cast. If it's well cast, it's just like, yeah, this is so much fun. So here's something I did that I don't even remember whatsoever. Guo Bao Zong Dong Yuan. Thank you. I have no idea. 2007, maybe that's why. But yeah, I think just what I've just said there, I'm just seeing if there's anything else that jumps out like that. Oh, you know what? There's a series called Monster that is wonderful. And those are very delineated characters with lots of intrigue and things going on. I think that would translate immediately to a good live action. There's so many great characters in the plot.
Absolutely. That would be
Yeah.
amazing for something like that. And I
Yeah.
think in
No.
terms of properties that I could see definitely happening for a reboot or a revival, actually. I know everyone has been asking about Berserk for a million
Yeah.
years right now. I personally would love to see them do Fist of the North Star, actually. I would love to see them do that because we just had the video game last year that just came out last year that I guess in a way sort of revitalized interest in Fist of the North Star and everything. I would love to
Mhm.
see them do a revival of something like that. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
And they're such big characters, that's literally and figuratively. So that would be fun to see, and certainly could be cast.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And going across into speaking about with revivals, we of course have the Thousand Year Blood War series in the Bleach universe, with you coming back as Byakuya, but also a list of other characters. What was it like stepping into the world of Bleach for the very first time, but especially now coming back into the Thousand Year Blood War series when we thought we were never going to get any more Bleach shows, even with the manga still ongoing at the time?
Right. I mean, initially, I think it was just a matter of being fortunate enough to be cast, and then having to kind of carve out his character. It was there, but between the direction and my own interpretation, finding that arc to where he became who he is, as far as the attitude, the demeanor, the actions that he took, and his own personal beliefs. So it was just kind of trying to hone that, get it to where I think it should be, and then maintain it. And ironically, when I was informed that it was coming back, and I guess it was 2022, I was delighted, absolutely. And then the first thing was like, can I match the voice? Is it still where it was? Am I? Oh, well, they think so. I guess you'll be okay. And then I just kind of said a couple of things out loud and went, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I listened, and I was so much higher vocally in the tone, in the pitch, than it actually is. Because if for example, if I was saying Bankai, but as the voice was before, it would be Bankai. It would be much lower and deeper
Mm.
and relatively ominous at times. And so I'd forgotten that. And so that was the beauty of going, well, go check, let's make sure. Don't be so arrogant to think you got it. Let's double check. Um,
Absolutely. Now that actually reminded me so much of when I interviewed Brian Beacock a couple of
uh-huh.
years back when he was in Australia, and we were talking about the Thousand Year Blood War series, and I thought of it as the fact of just like using the analogy of like picking up a coat that you haven't worn in years and just dusting it off and just adding a few extras to it because it's been years since the original series ended, which was fantastic, by the way. You and all the actors across the board were amazing in the original series. It was so fantastic. And I had a chance to see a little bit of clips from the Thousand Year series, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait
Well,
to see it in its entirety. It looks amazing. And I've got no doubt you and the actors across the board absolutely crushed it.
Well, the best part too is that on top of the actors having some time to get better, hopefully the acting, whatever, not that they were bad before, but any growth and development we've had as actors in that time frame, from the end of part one to say to the current, that was just something that was an added advantage. And the simple opportunity to do that, and then going to the premiere, or excuse me, the preview that was at Anime LA, I believe, which is a huge venue, and they put it in the biggest banquet room or whatever it would be called there, the meeting room, which sat 2,500 people, I believe, and it was still standing room only. And that was mind blowing. And it was myself and Michelle Ruff, who plays Rukia, doing a little panel. She and I just talking about it, and then uh, they had a quick video of Johnny Bosch and the gentleman that does Ichigo in Japan, and just talking to each other on that. And then they showed that 3-minute preview, and the animation, the growth of the animation, which was never bad, but now it's just phenomenal. So that alone, because we're just like, damn, look at that. That's just stunning. And everybody that was there was feeling the same way. So we knew we were onto something. Didn't know how long it would last or whatever, but we never do. So yeah, that was just a great indication of the power of the quality and the power and determination to make this phenomenal arc.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And as we all know, that the creator of the manga himself has been talking a lot about like developing more stories after the where the Bleach manga had ended in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like developing more from that story and doing more spin-offs. Are there any particular stories that you personally would love to explore in the Bleach universe, whether from the perspective of Byakuya or maybe like deeper or like any potential spin-offs?
Well, again, I don't know, what it's obviously going to be their decisions if they decide to do that. I don't know what would be the thing that would prompt them necessarily go this, but because Byakuya is still, I have a number of people that have come up and told me how much they dislike the character initially, and that's based on his cold, emotionless, and following only the rules and the law, and that's it. I think that's the basis of that, basically. So to be able to try to address that and see that character change when he recognizes, family over rules, family over the law, because family. And so that was a dramatic change in attitude of a lot of the fan base once they saw that. And so just to pursue maybe more of a history of his coming of age and growing, and that, because you don't know much about that necessarily. So that would be intriguing, I think. And then any further interactions with Rukia that you don't see much of, just stuff that is not shown, that you have to kind of create in your own mind how that might have been or how it is. I think that would lead to something interesting, because I know everyone loves Rukia, and there's a couple people that like what I do. So that's a good thing. That's something that comes to mind, is just seeing other sides of a character, whether it's mine or anyone else, knowing more about them, because you've already become invested in the character. You like the character, And so now we're going to explore some new stuff that you may not have seen, and further further solidify what you have seen, or help you to understand why it is. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I definitely agree on that because back in the original Bleach series, they dedicated a lot of the episodes to a lot of the main villains and especially a bit of the side characters as well, like understanding why they are the way that they are. That
Mm-hmm.
makes them three-dimensional in this case. It's like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
here's the villain, here's the hero, here's the villain, all that kind of stuff, but it makes them so much more complex in that fact. And that was one of the beautiful things about the original Bleach series for that matter, is exploring like the layers inside these characters, as well as the action just being off the charts amazing
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And that's the
Yeah.
types of stories that I'd love to see them continue with in the Thousand Year Blood War series, but also beyond that as well, for stuff that we didn't necessarily get in the original show and stuff. I'd love to see them explore further into that.
Yeah, no, and definitely. And that's again the power of the fan base is the opportunity to write in, and if they see enough, then they respond eventually, I think. So that's the power of you guys, of anybody that's a fan of the show or any other show, is that your vote means something, especially when you add it to everyone else's. So, that's, I'm always encouraging people, if they want to see something or hear something, write to the company, let them know, because they don't until they do.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Now, going back on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for a sec. Now,
Yeah.
just a bit of interesting trivia, especially to any Australians out there, is that during JoJo's Bizarre Adventure season 4, I think, which was Diamond is Unbreakable, for any Australian music fans out there, particularly of Savage Garden, which were a big pop duo back in the 90s, going
Mm-hmm.
into the 2000s, one of their songs, I Want You, was used as the ending credits for Diamond is Unbreakable, where lead
Mm.
singer Darren Hayes praised that immensely because especially because of him being a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan and anime fan and stuff. When you think back to a lot of the pop culture references in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, were there any particular references that you personally wanted to see in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Well, I mean, because they use such awesome, their choice of music is such an integral part, and such a jolt in the positive way to the system. Hearing that, and then I mean, the cross cultural sense of it is pretty awesome, and I love that. It almost reminds me of A Knight's Tale with um, Heath Ledger, and their choice of, I mean, Queen could never be used more efficiently than in that show. We will rock you with a jousting tournament and a serious battle, and that's like, yeah, this is awesome. So that counterpoint of this is this, but this is right for it, even though it happened 25, 30, 100 years later, it's right for this. And I love that, being able to throw in, references to REO Speedwagon and different bands. And I think that's just great. And especially some people don't even know who they are, so they're introduced to them, and other people know who they are and go, oh, cool. I know that. That's awesome. So that is great. I don't know that I can very well answer, particular space or scene, or that I would be craving a song, but there's just so much music in there that I'm a fan. Yeah, the band, yes, the quality of their music. There's just so many iconic bands that add to, because as you know, music is integral and so valid and very, very, very important, because what you can do with that is really set the scene, set the mood, set the vibe, just with that few notes or with a lot of them. And that,
Absolutely.
the better you are at knowing what fits and what will uplift or give that sense of somber if you needed it. It's just so great, because I'm sure a lot of people are like us, but I'm really looking at both those things when I'm looking at a scene that has music. Does this really gel? Does it work? Or is it like, yeah, that's a bad choice. And so I'm just so, and I truly, if I had the option, I suppose I do, but it's a little much. If I had the option of listening to a soundtrack for my life every day, you wake up and there's my soundtrack, and I'm walking around and I have music behind me, and that, man, I would survive very well on that, because that's when I have things to get done, there's music that I play. When I need to just chill for a moment, there's music that I play that takes me there. And I think we all take advantage of that. And so it's just the best. I mean, there's a couple bands, there's one in particular that I play whenever something's just, challenging me, or I need to feel better. And it's just, boop, okay, thank you. Yep. All right, here we go. Now I can do more. It's just that it's like eating food that has no seasoning, and then you put the seasoning on. You okay, now this is great. Let's eat. So that's my little analogy and my once again ability to dodge the question. Thank you.
But no, that's absolutely fantastic though. No, I think I was really excited in the fact it was just like them referencing a really big pop band from back in the 90s that especially an Australian group for that matter.
Uh-huh.
And it actually reminded me of at the end of this one interview I did with Robin McCullum from who plays Don Quixote do Flamingo from One Piece, where he asked me this question after the near the end of the interview. It's
Uh-huh.
like, it's like, can you think of any Australian kind of references in like anime and stuff? And it's like that actually is a really good question. Is that I personally would love to see more Australian representation, not just in
Hmm.
animation, but in a lot of forms of media outside of Australia in particular. That's something I would love to see them. I would love to really see more of, for that
Hmm.
matter. And when you think, of course, like too, obviously when people think of like anime, a lot of it is based in like Japanese culture, but some also anime that goes outside of Japan as well. If you were to think about like one country or culture that you feel like is not represented enough in not just in animation or media, what would you like to see that, what country or culture would you think of?
Well, I watched a show a while back called Mo, which he's a comedian, and it was a show of he and his family trying to assimilate into the states and do stuff right and get things done and not be harassed by the police and all the different stuff. But it's a really phenomenal show because he is such a funny man, but all this stuff was real but told with humor, and so that was a culture that I didn't know much about, and so being able to learn more about the culture and about the family life, and like you think of an Italian family, they're all together eating, and you think there's different cultural things that some cultures they don't talk that much, some nobody shuts up and they're always talking, and there's all that kind of stuff is fascinating to see for anyone that doesn't know about it. And on for me especially, it's like, okay, I've learned a little more, and that's part of the reason I like to travel so much, is to just get a better sense of, again, the whole community we're in, the world itself, and to know more. And on my soapbox that I still haven't really climbed all the way up on is the fact that learning another language other than what you normally speak has the most incredible power, because then you're able to talk with somebody else in their language and they understand you and you're able to understand them, and then you can hear things and get much more out of it than just trying to translate or go back and forth. And I think that just that chance, because it creates that bond, it creates that uh, bridge to another person to be able to talk to them in their own language. So I hope that continues to, at some point, I think we're the worst country in the world, in the US, as far as suggesting that it's a really good idea to have two languages. Many countries, that's part of the curriculum. You will learn this and you will learn this. And it's just the wisest thing, because the more we're able to communicate and be understood, the more we can see how similar we are and help towards making that happen all the way around.
Absolutely, without a doubt, for that matter. And speaking of that, of course, with that little talk about like with the education system in America and stuff, was reminding me of this interview from Jeff Daniels, again from the
Mhm.
off-camera show, where he was talking about when he was doing the newsroom, particularly
Right.
the opening speech, the pilot speech, describing it as the speech that he'd been waiting 35 years to do. When you look back across at your entire career, did you ever have that sort of moment? This was either the moment I waited my entire life to do in my career, whether it was playing a character or delivering a certain monologue.
Okay, give me a day. I'll be back. See you. No, gotta go. Initially, nothing just jumps right to that, but there have been there have been times when it was just such a breakthrough and a feeling. I mean, even something as simple as I was doing a one act and I was playing a character that was on his way to prison for, I think, killing someone, but this has been quite a while, but he didn't really kill them, but there was still some discrepancy because he wasn't a good man. But being able uh, to do that particular role and then have people that were, and there were other one acts in that. There is a fact that at one point there's a creative workshop called the Actor's Way, I believe it is, and in that you go in with a number of other actors and work on, enlarging your abilities and your ability to connect to and work and expand your creativity. And one of the things that required was writing for 3 days. Every morning you write 3 pages in a journal, and and it didn't matter what you wrote. The point was to do it, to just get into the habit of doing it, so that you could then get an understanding of the rigors of work in this industry, and just being able to do that and see what came. And I looking back on it, they said you want to keep this and look back on it, and I did, and there's a lot of really amazing stuff that I wrote that, wow. And so it gave you a sense of your own abilities and creativity. And then there was a final thing where we each had a monologue to do in front of the peers, and there's like 25, 30 or so people or more, and to get up and do that monologue. And it's kind of frightening, because again, what I talked about, being with your peers and trying to just, to get their respect as much as you respect them, if you will. And in doing the monologue, when I finished it, everybody just stood up and started applauding rapidly and loudly. And each person also wrote a little note about how the performance affected them. And they said to that, you will definitely want to hold on to these and look back later on. And that was a good 20 years ago. And I still periodically will grab those to look back, because it just gave me a sense of much more than I recognized of my ability or my possibilities, based on these people's commentary, that some of them just bring tears to my eyes, because they're so honest and sincere. And it was just a stunning moment. And that moment of standing there and being told, just take it in, because everybody's standing up and applauding, just really take that in, because that's love and care for what you've done. And that was a special moment. And I still talk about it and feel, I feel like I'm taller just talking about it. Because it touched my life that much, to just have that sense of belonging, and that sense of being amongst people that do this and actually excelling at it, or succeeding in what I wanted to do. And so, yeah, it's once again, it's kind of an untouchable and an amazing moment that you don't necessarily see all the time, but it just worked. And what I did was just a good indication of what I might be capable of down the road. And so it's just I'll never forget that. And I do still love looking at that. I mean, there's one that because it was a funny monologue, and it was also deep, but there was a lot of humor to it. And then I added a punchline that actually worked. It wasn't in the original monologue. But just to have somebody write, "Oh my God, I'm shaking." And I'm like, oh my God, I had the ability to elicit that reaction from somebody by my work. This is an indication of what you can do with your creative abilities and your sincerity and your truth in what you're doing. So if that answers that question, I think that was just one that really just it'll never be something I forget.
No, that was absolutely fantastic. No, and that's really amazing. That fact is like it's like looking back across your entire career and like all the achievements and stuff. It goes back to that answer you were saying about what your definition of success is
Yeah.
to you personally. It's not mattering about the awards and stuff. It's about
No.
achieving recognition amongst your peers and just like having that sense of longevity across your entire thing. It's just like you look across it, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to Bleach to Macross, and it's just like look at the range. It's like that sort of thing right there.
And that's another thing that I'm sure people would probably guess, but just to solidify the thought, I and anyone I can talk to that's an actor that I know or have an opportunity, love to play villains, love to play bad guys, or whatever it might be, because it gives you a chance to tap into that and try to again get into the layers of the character as to why they are the way they are. And I mean, they may just be a monster, and they are. And I'm not worried so much about that. If they're a big monster, and it's a monster. But to be able to go deeper into why the character behaves that way and understand more about them. And the example I can give for me is talking again about the show that I was doing in New York. I think I mentioned it earlier. That I was a bad guy. I was the lead. I was the guy that was in charge of. Let's say I was the head of ICE. Let's pick something. I was the head of an organization that didn't really have a great reputation. But for me, my character believed that that was the right thing to do, that that was absolutely what needed to be done to fix the world and take care of things. And there was no doubt in his mind. And even in a scene where he's torturing a character to find out more people involved in the movement, he's like got tears in his eyes saying, "Don't you understand? I am your only hope here. I believe in you. I love you. I want you to be happy. Please give me this information." And he's absolutely sincere. And he's also just a horrible, horrible human being because he's able to take anything that he's doing and put it over there with, "This is what has to happen. You don't understand. I care about you." And to find those layers and those levels of that character so somebody else understands. That's why people love a flawed hero, because then you see the
Absolutely.
humanity and then you understand, why are they like that? Just to be able to kind of create that undertow of knowledge of why they're being the way they are, because that's so critical. And that helps some people to be able to give him a little slack, not that he deserved it, but that's it. If your perception is great and you act accordingly, wonderful. If your perception is skewed 100% in the wrong direction and you act accordingly, as far as you're concerned, you're doing everything possible for the right thing to do. And as far as anyone else is concerned, you're a monstrous human being acting in the worst possible way imaginable.
But no, that's absolutely fantastic in that sense, and it reminds me of like an interview with Ian McShane during behind the
Oh,
scenes of Kung Fu Panda, where he once said, and this was an actor that is best known for playing bad guys or
oh
villains,
yeah,
and he's been known for, and he actually said at one stage that bad guys always get the best lines. That's
yeah.
almost like another requirement as well.
Hell yeah, it's the best. It's the best to nail those lines. I mean, and this is not a bad guy line, but that's one of the reasons there's such cool lines is like when Byakuya says to one of the people he's defeating in battle, as he's just taking him down, and he says, "You're slow, even when you were falling." It's so arrogant. He's just destroyed this person, and it's just like, you know and so that's kind of cool stuff. That's like, those are iconic lines that do that and give you a little like, yeah. So
Absolutely, without a doubt. Now, looking across at a few of the other roles that I've noticed was whether it's been Samurai X, Paranoia Agent, or even Samurai Champloo,
mhm.
it was shown that you were listed as Jackson Daniels in a few of those roles. What was the reason behind that, as opposed to going under your name, Dan Woren?
Right. Back then, because a lot of the productions were non-union, so there may have been, I'm not saying yes or no, but there may have been some indication that they might be checking and you might be in trouble if you did, even though it's an insignificant thing and you're just trying to pay the rent, kind of a thing. And so that was the reason, I think, for any number potentially. Again, this is all conjecture, but I think that was the reason for people to take on a nom de plume, to take on an anonymous name, and that and then I just played around with that, and I liked the sound of it. And Jackson Daniels was, of course, Jack Daniels. It was a type of whiskey, and so it's just fun stuff with that. And so I've had a couple of those just to find it. But the irony is that when you do that, the fan base is so rabid for information. I don't think it's an intentional thing, but they will immediately go, "Oh, and he's Jackson Daniels too," and it's out there on the internet. I'm like, well, so much for that surprise. Okay, so that's the only downside, but that's why I think it's mostly that's the reason, and just to have something fun to play with.
Absolutely. No, no, no. I definitely have noticed a number of actors that have used like pseudonyms and stuff, either
Right.
for that exact same reason or potentially because, especially if they are playing in a show that years later starts to have controversy like
Yeah.
attached to it, not on the fault of the actor, but just in general with the overall vibe of the franchise, is like, you know what? I'm going to distance myself off away from this. The
Well,
most, yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, finish up, and then I'll get there.
All right, the most famous example on that has been with Samurai X or Rurouni Kenshin. Now, as we know, 3 years ago, we of course had the reboot series for Rurouni Kenshin, and there's been a lot of controversy attached to that show in the last few years because of the creator of the manga and stuff. But when of course that happened, like with the Rurouni Kenshin series and stuff, how have you tried to deal with like shows, especially ones that have got controversy like attached to them and stuff?
Well, I mean, my own personal example of that is working on Fate Zero, and Fate Zero is a phenomenal show directed by Tony Oliver, great director. I've known him for 40 years, really, really talented. But they put everything into that as far as production values again, the music, the animation. It was a phenomenal show, but the context of it was a serial killer in the present day, bringing back a serial killer from basically of hundreds of years prior to teach him how to be a better serial killer. It's not a great concept. I mean, from the standpoint of what a great thing to do. But besides that, there was kids that they were dealing with. And so it's a horrible concept. And it was hard for me to go, but I looked at the standpoint of the role itself, which was a phenomenal role because I was so excited to get cast because it was different than almost anything I'd ever done, basically, because he's insane. Thank you. So because of that, at times he'll be hysterically crying, hysterically laughing, slow, stealthy, nasty. There's so many different levels to his character that it was like, how can I not do this? Because it's such an opportunity. And anybody I tell about it, I warn them this is a subject matter, and I hate it. I don't like the concept at all, but it's really, really good. And so that's hard for me because I really was like, kids, no, I can't. Oh, Jesus, but it didn't show the violence as much as it indicated it was about to happen, and it was something that wasn't drawn out or wasn't a big scene about the whatever happened. So that helped certainly. And there's a great cast, and it's just a phenomenal role to be able to play with, and it's a stretch and a challenge. And anytime you get that, it's just like, can I do this? I think I can. Let's do it. Because I swear to God, I was like a little kid when that call came in, and I was like, okay, oh, that's great. Okay, really, thank you. I'd love to hear about it. And then the phone's like, yeah, I can't. This is so cool. I didn't want to do that so much on the phone, but as soon as I hung up, I was just like jumping up and down, going, I got such a chance to work on something here and display, what the potential is to see this and to hear.
No, I think that's a great attitude to have for something like that in that regard and everything. Is almost like basically like having two schools of thought in that sense. But again, at the end of the day, is like it's the whole separating the art from the artist kind of thing in
Yeah,
some way or another like that. It's like I watched Rurouni Kenshin like years back and everything, and even watched a little bit of the reboot series, and it's like before I even discovered all the controversy that was attached to it and stuff, it's like I look at it now and go like, it's still an amazing series. It's one of the best out there of all
yeah.
time, but I understand all the controversy that's attached to it and stuff. I look at it as separating the art from the artist kind of thing. And the smart thing that the actors did in the reboot was they took a lot of the proceedings or the proceeds that they got from the series and donated to
Yeah.
causes that were
No,
related to that, which was
dead on.
absolutely fantastic.
No, I completely agree. That's just a great way to really demonstrate your intent and
Absolutely.
humanity in that regard. Before I forget, too, in the realm of audiobooks, there's a lot of people that use synonyms or what they use, not synonyms, but they what's the word? You just said it a second ago, my friend.
Pseudonyms, that's it.
Pseudonyms. That's what I say. What did you do? So in using the pseudonym, the reason is that they're doing erotic fiction or different things that are not necessarily looked upon favorably by a lot of people, but there's a huge audience for them. So they use a pseudonym when they're recording those. Whatever the theme might be, that they feel that it's better not to let everybody know, except the fan base, and they'll say I work under this pseudonym and this pseudonym. So yeah, that's just so just a little more information that happens quite often, in audiobook land.
Absolutely. And speaking about, of course, with that, now obviously I mentioned about, of course, with the audiophile awards, which you won numerous of them for
Mm-hmm.
your work in audiobooks and stuff. What was your reaction to winning that first audiophile award? And how do you feel about a lot of the award ceremonies, like dedicated to voice actors, like the smaller kind of ones, as opposed to like the bigger kind of ones that where voice acting is still not seen on that grander scale and stuff?
Well, yeah, the Audies are the voiceover or the audiobook predominantly realm that is closest to Emmys, Oscars, the VMAs, all of these different things. Um, and that is specific to the people in that. And there's stuff there that's you there's best audiobook and best in a particular field and best in read narrator for this and that. And so it's all in that realm. And so it's a great, I've enjoyed it at any time I've gone, and you get to dress up and, hobnob and look and wear your tux if you want and have fun. And so I'm enjoying that very much. And any of the littler things, I mean, I've been nominated for a couple different things, and it's just such a pleasure. As you asked the first time, I didn't know it was coming, and I got a little, congratulations, like what, and it was just like such a great, and a number of people, emailed me going, oh, by the way, you just were nominated, you were awarded this. I was like, wait, what? And then I saw that, and it was just like, wow. And so I'm always delighted and rarely expected, and it's just it's also fun to say award winning when you discuss yourself in some form. Not saying it every minute, but award winning. But I am so proud of that my work has touched people, again, peers and people in the industry that give you the recognition that hopefully you've earned. So
Absolutely.
it's a wonderful feeling. It's like, really? And to be able to go, I just got an award for my audiobook stuff. And that's wow. So yeah, bring them on. Please, more is good.
Absolutely.
But that said, you want to create the best possible interpretation that you can, and hopefully it resonates with other people, and maybe you get an award. But intrinsically, if you did a good job, and whether you get an award or not is not critical, but it's nice. It's really nice, and it gives you a little more cachet to be hired for other stuff, certainly. So
Absolutely. No, I think
that's
that's a
first.
fantastic attitude to have
Yeah.
on all that sort of stuff. And again, goes back to, as you were saying, your definition of success with getting recognized with the peers and just having that sense
Mm-hmm.
of longevity, but having those smaller awards dedicated to like voice acting and all that kind of stuff
Yeah,
is just adding extra to that little bit,
absolutely.
which is
No.
just fantastic. And
Yeah, no. I'm delighted and surprised and delighted every time.
no, absolutely. That's fantastic. And
Nice.
now, without going into any spoilers, what's next for Dan Woren for the fans to know about?
Well, there's a couple of video games that I've worked on that, of course, I can't talk about because they haven't been released. Basically, I know I don't know if it hit to Australia or if it went over to Europe, but Lupin the Third, there's a new movie, Immortal Bloodline. It's called, oddly enough, a lot of blood going on, and that it only screened for a few days in theaters here, and unfortunately I wasn't able to see the one day I was going to go, and I didn't realize it was going to be done in a very short run. I'm like, what? Wait, it's gone. So everyone I talked to that saw it, there's a lot of the cast there, said it was wonderful. And so if you like Lupin, I think that's a worthy thing to look for, if it's on a big screen or even just a stream. Lupin the Third, Immortal Bloodline. And then there's another Lupin film that I don't have a date of release on, but also worked on that, and that should be coming out shortly from another company, because there's like at least two companies that are doing Lupin stuff, and so I'm looking forward to that. That's coming out. So that's as much as I know for the moment. I actually have three different audiobooks that are kind of rotating around and seeing which is going to go first here, and that I should know by this week coming, and that'll be a good thing. So that's kind of what I know, and then I can't announce anything yet because it's not set, but I will be doing some appearances in Europe and also shooting for Australia. That will be coming, and some of them will be this year. And so I'd like to put out to any fans that might be watching this that happen to live in Australia, um, please ask them to bring me over, because I definitely want to. I have a close friend that's in Canberra, and so she every year she puts my name in, but that's one person. So anyone else that can add to that request, by all means, because I'm really looking forward to it. And I know I've got at least one thing set up, but again, I don't have specifics. But there's going to be at least one visit to the UK. but I just don't have specifics yet. And there's probably going to be two in a matter of a few months. So, and we'll see. But that's a new portion of my career that really hasn't been explored that much. And so that's what I really want to do is do more international traveling to cons to meet people I've never met and just to introduce maybe some of them to some of the stuff that's been going on and just to really again in person be able to thank them for their support because I know there's a lot and so yeah, by all means, if you want to see me, there's one in Sydney. I forget which one it is, but every year there's a big one in Sydney, I believe. um,
Yes, I actually did a video about like the Comic Cons in Australia. I actually did like a video explaining about all the different conventions that we have in Australia, from Supernova to Oz
right,
Comic
super,
Con to Metro Comic Con, which is in Melbourne, here in Melbourne,
mm-hmm.
Australia. And of course, mentioning Armageddon Expo, which is next in New Zealand, which is next door to Australia and everything.
Yeah,
So
I've put in a
I
request.
started up that video as a way to sort of like show to people like, hey, we've got conventions right here in Australia for any
Yeah,
potential new guests, but also anybody that's never been to Australia before. So especially for any pop culture fans as well. So that's the
yeah.
reason I started that video and stuff, to sort of explain all that bit, get into a little bit of the geography about Australia and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and mention the locations where these conventions would be happening and stuff.
Perfect. No, thank you for that because yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It will happen. I just don't know yet where or when, but which particular con or whatever else. But I have very very much desire to do that as well as the chance to see more of the world that I haven't seen. I've done a fair amount of traveling, but I'm really looking forward to this, and
Absolutely.
it's a
Well,
beautiful opportunity.
to any of the listeners out there, I'll post a link in the description below to for anybody that wants to check that video out. So look, so of course in that bit. And final question, what do you think Byakuya would say if he was in Australia?
Koala, koala. Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I think that would be quite a little strange thing for him to see, just in response to any of the wildlife, which there's so many options.
Abs
You know,
no, that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. No, that's
yeah.
wonderful. That's absolutely fantastic.
Take it a deeper level, and say, Senbon Sakura, kangaroo.
That
Silly, but
No, 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 no. That's absolutely fantastic. That is truly wonderful. Dan Woren, thank you so much. It has been an absolute honor to have you on my channel.
thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm sorry for everyone that might be watching this now or had to endure clips and cuts and edits. It's because me and technology, we fight sometimes. We're like brothers.
I think everyone can relate to that experience very,
Yeah.
very well, without a doubt. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans out there in Australia and in the world?
Well, I just thank you so much for the time you've spent in your life to watch this stuff and to really care about the characters and to really integrate that into your life because it's something that means something to you. It means something to us as well. So please know that it's not just, oh, I got a gig. That was in the beginning. It's like, what is it? I don't know, but I'm working. That was then. Now it's like, this is really awesome. And so to have that opportunity, and again, as I said, to be able to meet people with different cultures and different places in the world, and to be able to grow towards the similarities and not the differences, to be able to learn more in that regard and dialogue. I mean, you guys, you're an amazing group. And you have an amazing country, and so the opportunity to visit and to exchange stories and to say hello, it's not. I go there for the whole thing, not just for I got to go. I'm going to make some money and I'm going to go back. Cool. That's never entered my mind. It's the opportunity to do all this, that we can be an ambassador for any number of things, if nothing else, to prove that not everybody in the United States is an idiot. I say that there's a lot of good, and it's not everything you see that's everybody you see. Trust me,
Absolutely.
believe
No,
me.
that's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic.
Uh,
Well, guys, if you'd like to check out Dan Woren, you can catch Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War, which you can stream on Disney Plus, and you can catch him on his other work, which I'll put a link in the description below for anything to check out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, Comment below, what is your favorite Dan Woren role? And don't forget to check out the links in the description and in my channel. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. This is Simon and Dan Woren signing off. Bye for
Thank you
now.
very much. Really appreciate you all and you, Simon, as well. Thank you so much.
My pleasure,
Have a
man.
great rest of your Sunday.
And